This week, we are going to talk about the basics of where all of our problems come from. This is huge stuff, and I can talk about it for hours. So, we're going to talk about pretty high level summary of it. And I'm going to talk about the stuff I've been learning for years. But if you stick around to the end, I'm also going to tell you some breakthroughs I've had very recently, literally the past couple of weeks as I'm recording this, that have taken it to a whole new level for me. So let's get stuck straight in. What I've discovered over the years is that, and this is really powerful actually in the personal development world, because it's different to what you'll hear in most places. Where most of our problems come from, if not all of our problems, is from being taught when we were children to suppress emotions. That might sound like a big claim to make, right? I'll come on to explaining a bit more about that in a few minutes. But go back to the basics to let me show you what this means. When we're born, when we come bouncing out into this world, we are helpless. And we know this. Our system is already advanced. It already knows that we cannot survive without the love of the people we're given to. So our caregivers. For most of us, that's a parent or two parents. For many people, it's someone else. Grandparents, foster care, whoever our original caregivers are. What our system knows very quickly and instinctively is that we literally can't even lift our own head up as a child, as a human. We need these people to love us. We need them to look after us in order to survive. This is not the same for other animals. I remember when I was writing my last book, I was looking up what's this like for other animals, and I came with the example of a giraffe. A giraffe can walk within 30 minutes of being born, which might not sound like a lot, but if you can walk, think about it. If you can walk, you can find food. So in that sense, you can survive. Humans are different. We know we will die if we're just left by ourselves, right? So our system is highly attuned to that. So what it wants to do very quickly is to connect with the people we're given to in order to make sure that they love us, in order to make sure they don't abandon us, in order to make sure they keep us alive, because that's what we associate with these things. At a very early stage in life, this is not anybody's fault. There is no blame attached to this. There are people who misunderstand what I talk about when I talk about these things, like we should blame our parents for everything, and that's just bullshit. This is just like shit rolling down a hill, is the expression I like to use, is that this has just been passed down. The way we raise kids has been passed down through the generations, and it's only in the past couple of decades that people have started really learning more about this and implementing it. There have been some issues with that, which we'll come on to as well. But for the most part, the way we've raised kids in Western society for decades, centuries, is to teach them to suppress emotions without realizing it. So think about this. If a kid cries, what most people will say to a kid who's crying is stop crying. We tell kids not to be afraid. We tell kids not to worry. We tell kids not to be angry. That is all being taught to suppress our emotions. Now, the problem with that is that internally, nothing changes. Our emotions are just our emotions. They come up, they are perfectly healthy, and we need them. I could talk for hours about what we need emotions for. We haven't got time for that in this episode, but we need all of the emotions. They all serve their own purpose. So think about it, right? You feel sad, you want to cry. Sadness comes up in you. Your caregiver, who you know you need them to love you to keep you alive, tells you not to cry. What they're effectively saying is don't feel sad. So our system goes, okay, we can't feel this thing, but we already feel it. So all I can do is push it back down. So we either repress or suppress, two different things, but connected. So repression is very deep level. We learn at a very deep level to just push it away before it even really gets to the surface. Suppression is more of a conscious thing. So an emotion comes up, your husband or your wife or your partner has pissed you off before you're going to work. You feel angry. You consciously suppress it in order to go to work and get on with your day. We're constantly pushing down these emotions. This has a massive knock-on effect. So firstly, it makes us at a deep level feel like we're not good enough, which we're going to come on to. Feel like we're not good enough. This is not right. Who I am, the way I feel is not good. And it has a knock-on effect biologically as well, which is again a whole other topic, which there's a whole world we can talk about in that, which we won't get into today. But the analogy I like the most for this, I've got loads of different analogies over the years, but the one I like the most is, think of a beaker that's filling with water, and there's a line halfway up, which is the maximum you can have, and there's a tap on the bottom, and every time you suppress any emotion, the beaker fills up, and it keeps filling up and keeps filling up, and you're constantly suppressing emotions in different parts of your life from when you're a little kid, and at some point the beaker fills past the line, and that's when we start having problems. And then for some of us, including me, you just keep filling the beaker and keep filling it, and then it overflows, and that beaker effectively represents your nervous system. So your nervous system is if you suppress your emotions for long enough, completely overflows, and that's when you're fucked. You're going to get health problems, you're going to get psychological and emotional problems. And the way out of it is to drain the beaker. So open the tap at the bottom by doing psychological and emotional work. And the key is stop filling it up at the top, which is huge, and we'll come on to as well. But if you're listening to this thinking, well, hopefully it makes sense, but I don't really think that, because most of our problems are mental health problems, and something I've identified over the past few years is in our Western society now, we talk more about what mental health problems than we ever did, which is great. And at the same time, I've realized, A, we don't talk about them enough still, and B, they're not actually mental health problems. They're emotional health problems that manifest as mental health problems. And I hardly hear anybody talking about emotional health problems, which is why my work is focused on that. Everything I do is focused on that. Because think about it. Depression, anxiety, fear, anger, these are emotional issues. If you suffer with depression, that is not a mental health problem. Depression is an emotion. If you suffer with an anxiety condition, that is an emotional problem. The main thing that holds people back in their lives is fear. Fear is not a psychological problem. Fear is an emotion. So we talk about all these things. Anger is another great one. How many problems does we think anger causes in life? Anger is an emotion. It's not psychological. It just manifests in our brain. We've been taught since we were kids in the world in which we live to live inside our heads, not live inside our bodies. So this stuff manifests in our mind, and we try and figure it out through psychology, and we call them mental health problems. But the root cause of them is not mental at all. It's emotional. So the way out of it is emotional, not psychological. There is a combination, and the work I think the work I've developed over the years has been so powerful for me and for the people I've helped, because it combines these things. There are lots of different places that have different approaches that focus on the psychology or the emotional or the sort of real life practical stuff. What I've done is combined all that stuff over the years, so it puts everything in one place. But the root of it is still emotional. And the way out of this is to learn how to feel our emotions properly, which sounds like an easy thing to do. It's one of my favorite phrases. It's simple, but it's not easy. When you've been taught since you were a little kid to suppress things, to repress things, like from a base level, just being told to feel those feelings is just, I've been learning this shit for eight years now and practicing it intensively on a daily basis and coaching other people on it. And I'm working in a new group where I'm the client, and we're talking on a deeper level about this stuff. And inside that group, there's another therapist who's a client, same issues as me. When you've been taught so deeply at such a deep level to suppress and repress your emotions, learning to feel them is not an easy shift to make. At the same time, it is key to remember that they are called feelings for a reason. They are not called expressings, and they are not called sharings. This is an internal game. So one of the places where the personal development world goes wrong and the self-help world goes wrong is we're told to express our feelings or to share them and don't get me wrong, there is a place for expression and speaking about our feelings at times. It's very nuanced. We haven't got time for that right now. But for the most part, this is an internal game. There's a clip always comes to mind. I think it's from I think the film's called Bad Dads. It's Bill Burr, the comedian's in it, and there's a scene near around a pool where someone's little boy, he's 5 or 6 years old, is running around hitting people with a big branch from a tree, and his mum's supporting him, saying, "Hey, he needs to feel his anger." And I'm watching it going, no, this is the problem. And it's done in a joking, like in a mocking way that she's wrong. And this is often the problem. We go too far the other way with things. We've spent centuries teaching kids to repress emotions, and then someone breaks that and goes, oh no, that's wrong. We tend to go too far the other way to correct it. Teach kids they can just do what the fuck they want now. No, that's not right either. We don't need to run around expressing anger in order to feel it. We need to feel it internally. I've got loads of analogies in this. One of my favorite ones is think of life like a barrel that's just full of shit. It's full of stuff that's been accumulating over decades, probably by the time you watch this. I'm in my mid-40s as I record this. So by the time I started doing this work, I had 4 decades of shit accumulated in this barrel. When you start doing this work, you're going to be taking big boxes out the top of the barrel, big lifetime things that you need to process and you need to go over and feel those feelings. And as you get deeper down the barrel, the smaller stuff has sort of fallen down through the cracks. And as you take the bigger stuff out, you get to the smaller stuff. You get to the more details. As you get the smaller stuff out, you get to the sludge that's at the bottom of the barrel, which is all the stuff that's been dripping down for decades since you were a little kid. One of the ways to approach this, but again, this is a very high level summary of detailed stuff that I cover in my coaching and my online program, is to do a timeline of events since you were a kid, of all different things that have happened to you in which you have suppressed emotions without realizing it because you weren't taught how to feel them, and to go back and feel them. There are a lot of different opinions on this, and some people think you don't have to do that. My opinion is it depends. So with all of the work I share, with everything I do when I'm helping people, I always say you've got to make this fit for you. Don't listen to anybody who tells you there's one way of doing anything, because you've got to make sure whatever you're doing fits your life, your unique situation. We're all built on the same operating system, and at the same time, we're all unique. We've all had unique experiences in life. So you've got to figure out what works best for you. For some people, they don't need to go back through to the things from childhood, and they can just get to a good place in their life, day-to-day life now. Some people, like me, do need to go right the way back and need to go through a load of stuff and clear it all out. And it can take a lot of time, but you've got to figure out for yourself what's the right approach. You'll only know that by doing the work and starting to go through it. The big breakthrough I've had in recent times is getting to the bottom of that barrel after all these years of doing it, and getting to the smaller details and noticing one of the things that's been a guiding force for me in the work I've done psychologically and emotionally over the years is that I've got chronic health problems that are linked to suppressed emotions, and I've been working on them. And one of the questions I've had for myself, for especially in recent years, is I've done so much of this work. I've cleared out so many old suppressed emotions. Why am I still not fully healed? And the logical connection is, well, you must still be suppressing emotions. And I used to say to myself, that can't be true. Like, I do this all the time. I'm so good at it. And just in the past few weeks, by going deeper in a new coaching group that I'm in as a client, as I mentioned, what I've realized is we're all suppressing emotions every day in very small ways. And one of the tricks our ego will use to make us think we're feeling our emotions is to think about our emotions and narrate them. So because I've learned so much about this stuff, I'm an expert in talking about emotions, but feeling them, going back to what I said before, feeling your emotions is a completely different game. So what I've started to do on a very small basis, think about what I was saying before, the barrel analogy. I've done all the big stuff. I've taken all the big stuff out the barrel. But now, just on a very basic level, very small level every day, I'm looking at where are the emotions coming up that I'm just skipping past. And by skipping past them, I'm suppressing them. So I'll give you a very basic example, right, which is where I am at the game. But depending on where you are on the path, you may be nowhere near getting to this point yet. You need to start emptying that barrel first. Or you may be near where this is. I just noticed that, think about every time you pick up your phone, right? And this work helps you to really slow down and zoom into the detail. I picked up my phone. My WhatsApp looking for messages is on like the 4th page of my phone from the home screen, so that I'm not constantly getting distracted by messages. I don't have notifications switched on apart from the little like red thing that tells you if you've got any messages on the app itself. So to check if I've got messages, I've got to scroll to that page, see if I've got a message. If I have, I click on it. If I don't, I don't. And then on the same page are my social media apps for the same reason. I only really use Twitter, X, as it's called now. What I started noticing was, if you think about this, right, without us stopping and slowing down and really thinking about this, that process of going to my WhatsApp, checking if there's a message, if there is, reading it, if there isn't, doing something else, seems like there's nothing in that. But until you slow down or zoom in, before I scroll, if I just stop and go, what are my emotions right now? There's anticipation, there's expectation, there's maybe excitement. Because why am I scrolling to see if there's a message? Because I'm expecting a message, or I think there might be a message. So when I get to the page, if there are no messages and I stop again and go, how do I feel now? I might feel disappointed. I might feel sad. No one's messaged me. I used to get messages all the time. I don't get them anymore. Why? I've slowed my life right down. I don't have as many people in my life. I don't get as many messages. Well, there's sadness in that. Something I noticed which got me to start doing this was, as soon as I got to that page, if there were no messages on WhatsApp, I would immediately click into Twitter and start looking at Twitter. And I was thinking, well, why am I doing that? And again, slow down, zoom in. So what's happening in slow detail? I'm feeling excited, anticipation, expectation before I scroll to WhatsApp. But I'm not feeling any of those. I'm not stopping to feel them. They're just coming up. I'm suppressing them to get to WhatsApp. When I get to WhatsApp, if there's no message, I'm now feeling disappointment, sad, maybe some grief. But in order to suppress those emotions and not feel them, I'm clicking straight into X, to Twitter, to distract myself, to suppress. That's all happening in 3 seconds. And without me zooming into the detail, I'm suppressing all of those emotions in very small ways without knowing it. Now, as I say, right, you might be listening to this thinking, fucking hell, Paul, that's detailed. That's a lot. Well, we can't go through our days doing this. But think about if I'd been taught since I was a kid to just allow my emotions to flow freely. And you might be watching this and you do let your emotions flow freely and there's nothing wrong in your life and there's no problems. But if you're watching videos like this, there are probably problems in your life at some level. And what I'm highlighting is how we suppress emotions constantly without knowing it. Because if you've been taught, if there are no problems in your life and you've been taught to allow emotions to flow, think of emotions are energy, right? Emotions are just meant to flow through our system. We would just naturally feel all of those emotions as going, oh, excited to check my messages. Oh, I'm disappointed I didn't get any. I don't need to go to Twitter. I can just turn my phone off. I can just put my phone down. The same can happen if there is a message. You click into the message and it's something. And if you don't stop and really think, go into the feeling, how do I feel about that message? There could be all kinds come up. And I've noticed there is anger, frustration, resentment, guilt, happiness, joy, love, all of these things, but we don't stop and feel them. And that's what's underneath so many of the problems in our life. So as you can probably tell, to get to that place, if you are someone who suppresses and represses emotions, which a little cheat code for you, if you're watching videos like this, if you're listening to episodes like this, if you have any problems in your life, the answer is you probably do suppress emotions. You probably do repress emotions. And the way out is to start feeling them and to start doing some sort of emotional work, whether it's my stuff or with someone else, that helps you to start letting the emotions flow through you and feel them properly and let the energy flow. It will clear up psychological and emotional problems, and it will also clear up health problems. As I say, it's a much bigger conversation. And depending where you're starting from, it can be a long path. But the key is to do it, to start it to begin with, if you're not doing anything, and to keep going and to trust the process. One of my favorite phrases with this stuff is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's the way to approach it. So that's it. It's a pretty high level overview with some updates of where I've got to recently in my own journey. Let me know what you think in the comments wherever you're watching this or listening to it. If you want to explore more of this stuff, I've got a free community you can join. There is a link underneath this episode. Sign up. It's completely free, no obligations. You can leave whenever you want. You get loads of free stuff, including free digital copies of my 2 books that I've written and loads of other stuff. Check it out. Click the link. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.